My daughter called, "Dad, tomorrow I'm getting married. I just withdrew all the money from your accounts and sold your house. Goodbye, Dad." I listened and was shocked, almost collapsing. But then I just laughed, because she didn't know the secret about that house. She thought I was old, thought I was a stupid, confused fool. But tomorrow, when she walks into her wedding ceremony, the police will come to give her a special gift before she puts on her wedding ring. Hello, friends. Thanks for joining me. Please like, subscribe, and comment where you're watching from. Quick note, this is a fictional story with dramatized elements for storytelling purposes. Any resemblance to real events is coincidental, but the lesson within is something we can all learn from. I laughed when I saw the zero. Not a chuckle, not a nervous giggle. A full-on, belly-shaking laugh that echoed off the kitchen walls at 7:30 on a Sunday morning. The kind of laugh that makes your neighbors wonder if you've finally lost it. Maybe I had. I sat at the kitchen table in my house on Desert Ridge Boulevard, laptop, open coffee growing cold beside me. The Arizona sun was just starting to climb over the desert hills outside the window, painting the saguaros gold. It should have been a peaceful morning. Retirement had given me plenty of those, but my bank account balance wasn't peaceful. It was a disaster. Checking account $1,732.14. Previous balance $6,800. Savings account $0. Previous balance $220,000. I blinked, rubbed my eyes, closed the laptop, opened it again. Still zero. That's when I laughed. Because what else do you do when your life savings vanishes overnight? When you spent 30 years as a bank manager teaching people how to protect themselves from fraud, and then you wake up one morning to find out you're the victim. You laugh. Or you cry. I chose laughter. I clicked on the transaction history, my hands surprisingly steady, for a man who'd just been robbed blind. 3 large withdrawals from savings, 1 from checking. October 24th, 2024, 9:47 a.m. $90,000 transferred to Amanda Hughes, account XXXX3782. October 24th, 2024, 2:18 p.m. $85,000 transferred to BH Investment LLC. October 25th, 2024, 11:03 a.m. $45,000 wire transfer to Luxury Weddings AZ. October 26th, 2024, 3:42 p.m. $500 ATM withdrawal, Scottsdale Fashion Square. Total $225,000. Amanda Hughes, my daughter. I stared at her name on the screen. 32 years old, marketing coordinator, lives in Scottsdale, drives a leased Honda, calls me twice a month, maybe 3 times if she needs something, and apparently she'd just cleaned me out. The phone rang. I looked at the caller ID. Amanda Hughes. For a second I thought about not answering, about letting it go to voicemail, about pretending I hadn't seen the statements yet, that I was still the clueless old man she must think I am. But I'm not clueless. I'm a banker. Or I was. I picked up. "Dad." Her voice was bright, almost giddy. "I have the best news." I said nothing. "Brandon and I are getting married this Saturday. Can you believe it? We didn't want a long engagement, so we just went for it. And Dad, we bought a house." My grip tightened on the phone. A house. Yes, it's perfect. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, a pool. You're going to love it. "What's the address?" My voice sounded calm. Too calm. 2943 Canyon View Circle, in Tempe. It's close to everything. We got an amazing deal. 2943 Canyon View Circle. My rental property. The house I'd owned for 9 years. The house that brought in $3,200 a month. The house that was supposed to fund my retirement, along with the savings account that was now sitting at a big, fat zero. Amanda, I said slowly, that's my house. A pause, then a laugh. Light, unbothered. I know, Dad. That's the best part. I used the power of attorney you signed. Remember you said I could handle your finances if you were ever sick or couldn't manage things yourself. So I sold the house and we used the money for the down payment. Isn't that great? It stays in the family power of attorney. I didn't remember signing a power of attorney. I would remember something like that. I'd spent 3 decades reviewing legal documents. I knew what a POA looked like. I knew what it meant, and I would never ever give my daughter that kind of control. Amanda, I said, my voice low, I never signed a power of attorney. Another pause, this one longer. Yes, you did, Dad, in September. When you were in the hospital with pneumonia. I brought the forms to you. Insurance paperwork, remember, you signed everything. September. The hospital. Fever of 104.3. 3 days in Banner Desert Medical Center, barely able to lift my head off the pillow. And Amanda visiting me, bringing papers, telling me they were routine. I closed my eyes. Amanda, where did the money from my savings account go? What do you mean, the $220,000? Where is it? I already told you. The house, the wedding. Dad, are you feeling okay? You sound confused. Confused. She thought I was confused. Or maybe she wanted me to think that. I'm fine, I said quietly. I'll call you later. Haturiyuani, wait, Dad. I hung up. The kitchen was silent except for the hum of the refrigerator. I sat there, phone in hand, staring at the laptop screen. $0.00. I thought about Catherine, my wife, the woman who'd sat at this same table 34 years ago, holding a tiny red-faced baby girl in her arms, tears streaming down her face. She's perfect, Catherine had whispered. Warren, she's absolutely perfect. And she was. Amanda was perfect. Smart, funny, stubborn as hell. She looked just like her mother. Catherine passed away 3 years ago. February 14th, 2021. A car accident on I-10 just outside Phoenix. The kind of ordinary tragedy that rips your life apart without warning. Before she went, I'd promised her I'd always protect Amanda, no matter what. Take care of our girl. Catherine had said, her hand in mine. I will, I'd promised. But how do you protect someone from themselves? I looked at the laptop screen again, at the zeros, at my daughter's name on the transaction list. And then I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because I didn't know what else to do. My daughter just stole $250,000 from me, I said out loud to the empty kitchen. And I'm sitting here laughing. I looked at the photo of Catherine on the counter. Her smile, her eyes, the way she'd always believed the best in people, even when they didn't deserve it. Catherine, I whispered, if you're watching, I'm sorry. I failed. I closed the laptop. Outside, the desert morning stretched on golden and quiet. And inside, I sat alone with nothing but a cold cup of coffee and the sound of my own hollow laughter. 45 minutes later, I was still standing at the kitchen window, staring out at the desert. The saguaros stood silent in the morning light, arms raised like they were asking the same question I was. How did I miss this? I'm not supposed to miss things like this. For 30 years, I was the guy people came to when they had questions about money. Warren Hughes, branch manager at Desert Valley Bank in Gilbert. The man who could spot a forged signature from across a desk. The one who'd saved at least a dozen elderly clients from signing away their life savings to scammers who called themselves financial advisors or helpful family members. Chulahai, I knew every trick in the book. Fake power of attorney documents, emotional manipulation, urgency tactics. Sign this now, Mom, before it's too late. I'd seen it all, and I'd stopped it all, until now. Now I was the cautionary tale. I turned away from the window and looked around the kitchen. The house was quiet. Too quiet. It had been that way for 3 years, ever since Catherine passed away. This house, 4821 Desert Ridge Boulevard, was hers before it was ours. She'd inherited it from her parents, put it in a trust, made sure it would always be protected. Our safety net, she used to call it. A place we could always come home to no matter what. Catherine had been the smart one when it came to legal matters. I handled the numbers. She handled everything else. We were married in 1990, 34 years. She was 24, fresh out of college with a teaching degree and a smile that could light up a room. I was 26, wearing a suit I'd borrowed from my father and carrying a ring I'd saved 6 months to buy. Amanda was born 2 years later, our only child. Catherine had complications during the delivery, and the doctors told us there wouldn't be any more babies. We didn't care. Amanda was enough. More than enough. She was perfect. At least I thought she was. Catherine passed away on Valentine's Day 2021. A car accident on I-10 just outside Phoenix. She'd been on her way home from a teacher's conference in Tucson. A semi-truck driver fell asleep at the wheel, drifted into her lane. She didn't suffer. That's what they told me. It was instant. I'm not sure that makes it any better. After she was gone, I threw myself into work. But I was 56, tired, and grief makes you careless. I retired in 2022, 2 years earlier than I'd planned. The bank gave me a gold watch and a plaque that said something about dedicated service. I put it in a drawer and haven't looked at it since. I thought retirement would help. Thought I'd have time to process things, to grieve properly, to figure out how to live without the woman who'd been my partner for more than half my life. Instead, I just got lonelier. Amanda called at first. Once a week, maybe twice. But she was busy. Marketing coordinator at some firm in Scottsdale, making $65,000 a year and living in a 1-bedroom apartment that cost $1,650 a month. She had her own life. I didn't want to be the needy father, the one who clung too hard. So I let her drift. I started volunteering at the Phoenix Public Library, teaching financial literacy classes to seniors. Ironic, isn't it? Helping other people avoid the exact thing I was about to fall into. But it gave me something to do. Kept my mind sharp. Or so I thought. The rental property, 2943 Canyon View Circle in Tempe, was supposed to be my backup plan. I'd bought it in 2015, right before the market took off. Paid $340,000 for it. Now it was worth over $500,000 easy. David and Lisa Robinson had been renting it since 2021. Good tenants. Paid on time, took care of the place, never caused trouble. That $3,200 a month covered the property taxes, insurance, and still left me with a nice cushion. Between the rental income and my savings, I was set. Comfortable. Secure. Or I had been. I walked back to the table and opened the laptop again. The screen was still showing my account balances. $1,732.14 in checking. $0 in savings. I pulled up the transaction details one more time, even though I'd already memorized them. Amanda Hughes. Amanda Hughes. BH Investment, LLC. Luxury Weddings, AZ. My daughter. My perfect, beautiful, smart daughter. The one I'd taught to ride a bike. The one who'd cried on my shoulder when her high school boyfriend broke up with her. The one who'd stood beside me at Catherine's funeral, holding my hand so tightly, I thought she might never let go. "I'll take care of you, Dad," she'd whispered that day. "I promise." And I'd believed her. I'd believed every word. I closed my eyes and saw Catherine's face. Not the way she looked at the end, but the way she'd looked when Amanda was born. Exhausted, tearful, radiant. "She's perfect, Warren. She's absolutely perfect." "I'm sorry," I whispered to the empty room. "I'm so sorry." I opened my eyes and looked at the laptop again. I'd spent 3 decades teaching people how to avoid this, how to protect themselves, how to recognize the warning signs. And I'd missed every single one, because the person stealing from me was my daughter, and I'd loved her too much to see it coming. I picked up my phone and typed into the search bar Elder Financial Abuse Attorney, Phoenix, Arizona. The first result was James Maxwell Law Firm, 5-star reviews. Specializes in elder abuse, fraud, estate disputes. I stared at the phone number for a long moment. This was it. The point of no return. Once I made this call, there was no going back. No pretending it was a misunderstanding. No hoping Amanda would fix it on her own. This was me admitting that my daughter had stolen from me, and I had to stop her. I dialed the number. It rang twice before a woman answered. "James Maxwell Law Firm, how can I help you?" I took a breath. "My name is Warren Hughes," I said. "I need help." My voice cracked just a little. "My daughter stole from me. The receptionist said someone would call back within the hour." I hung up and checked the time. 9 o'clock. I was supposed to teach at the library at noon. I wasn't going. I sat at the kitchen table, phone in hand. The house was too quiet. It had been that way for 3 years, but today the silence felt heavier. Without thinking, I opened my Photos app and scrolled. Catherine at the Grand Canyon. Amanda's college graduation. A desert sunset. And then I stopped. A picture from the summer of 1999. Amanda, 8 years old, sitting at this table with crayons scattered everywhere. She was holding up a drawing, grinning with a gap-toothed smile. My daddy the hero. I remembered that day, summer 1999, Scottsdale. Late afternoon Arizona heat, thick as syrup. I'd just gotten home from the bank, still in my suit, sweat sticking to my shirt. Amanda sat at the kitchen table, bent over a piece of yellow construction paper. Catherine was at the stove making spaghetti, humming. "Daddy, look." Amanda held up her drawing, a stick figure with a cape and a big W on his chest. Me flying through the air, holding a little girl's hand. "You're Superman," she said, beaming. "And I'm your sidekick." Catherine laughed. "Your daughter thinks you're a superhero. Don't let it go to your head." I knelt beside Amanda, loosening my tie. "This is amazing. Can I keep it?" She nodded, serious. "You have to, because you protect me from bad guys." I hugged her, breathing in strawberry shampoo. "I'll always protect you, sweetheart. I promise." "Promise. Promise." She smiled and went back to coloring. Catherine caught my eye from across the room. Her smile said something I didn't understand then. Don't make promises you can't keep. But I thought I could keep that promise forever. I swiped to the next photo. June 2009. Amanda's high school graduation. Desert Vista High School lawn. Amanda in cap and gown, diploma in hand, looking too grown up. Catherine and I stood on either side of her, arms around her shoulders. She was crying. "Thank you for everything," she'd said, voice breaking. "I know I wasn't always easy, but I love you. Both of you. I'm going to make you proud. I promise." I'd laughed. "You already do." "I'm serious, Dad." Catherine kissed her head. "You always have, sweetheart." We took the photo right after. The three of us smiling. Amanda in the middle holding both our hands. She looked so happy. I wondered when that changed. I swiped again, and my chest tightened. February 14th, 2021. Phoenix. This wasn't a photo. It was a memory. Banner Desert Medical Center. ICU, fluorescent lights. Machines beeping. The smell of disinfectant. Catherine was on the bed, eyes closed, peaceful. But she wasn't sleeping. The doctors had already told me. The accident on I-10 had been too severe. She'd already passed, but the machines were still running until I could say goodbye. Amanda stood beside me, gripping my arm. 29 years old, but looking like a child. Small. Scared. Dad, I'm so sorry. It's not your fault. I should have been here more. Called more. I should have... Amanda. I turned to her. She was sobbing. It's not your fault. She threw her arms around me, and we stood there in that cold room while the machines beeped their indifferent rhythm. I'm going to take care of you, she whispered. Just like you took care of Mom and me. I'll be there for you, Dad. I swear. I held her tighter, because I believed her. I closed the photo app. 3 memories. 3 promises. You protect me from bad guys. I'm going to make you proud. I'll take care of you, Dad. I stared at my phone, vision blurring. What happened to that little girl who thought I was Superman? The one who cried at graduation and promised to make me proud? The one who held me in the hospital and swore she'd take care of me? When did she become someone who could steal everything I had? I'd kept that drawing. For years, it hung in my office at the bank. Customers would ask about it, and I'd say, that's my daughter. She thinks I'm Superman. And I'd feel proud. After Catherine passed, I framed it and put it on my dresser next to a photo from Amanda's graduation. You're my hero. I wasn't anybody's hero anymore. Just a 58-year-old man robbed by the person he loved most. I sat there staring at the photo on my screen. Amanda at 8, holding up her drawing, grinning. My daddy the hero. I closed my eyes. I'm sorry, sweetheart. I whispered to the empty kitchen. I'm so sorry. I didn't know who I was apologizing to. Amanda, Catherine, myself. Maybe all 3. The phone rang. I looked down. James Maxwell Law Firm. Mr. Hughes, this is James Maxwell. Can you come to my office today at 2 o'clock? I looked at the clock. 9:15. I'll be there, I said. I sat at the kitchen table for a moment, phone in my hand. 2 o'clock? James Maxwell's office. I had almost 5 hours. I looked at my calendar. Sunday morning. I was supposed to volunteer at the Phoenix Public Library, financial literacy class. I'd been teaching it every other Sunday for 2 years now. Today's topic, how to spot elder financial abuse. The irony would have been funny if it wasn't so painful. I grabbed my keys and headed out the door. By 10 o'clock, I was pulling into the library parking lot. The building was quiet on Sunday mornings, just a handful of people browsing the shelves, a few kids in the children's section. I made my way to the community room and started setting up. Laptop, projector, handouts stacked on the table by the door. Slide 1, elder financial abuse. Warning signs. I stared at the screen and felt something twist in my chest. The seniors would start arriving at 11:30. I had an hour and a half to pull myself together. I sat down in one of the empty chairs and closed my eyes. But all I could see was Amanda. 2021. The year Catherine passed away. For the first few months, Amanda had been there. She called 2-3 times a week. stopped by the house on weekends, helped me sort through Catherine's things, clothes, books, the little ceramic birds she'd collected over the years. "You don't have to do this alone, Dad," Amanda had said, sitting on the living room floor surrounded by cardboard boxes. "I'm here." And she was. For a while. 2022. The year I retired. The calls started tapering off. Once a week, maybe. Amanda was busy marketing coordinator at some firm in Scottsdale, pulling in $65,000 a year, but always stressed about rent car payments, credit cards. "I'm sorry I haven't called more, Dad. Work's just been insane." "I understand, sweetheart. You've got your own life." I meant it. I didn't want to be the clingy father, the one who made his daughter feel guilty for living her own life. So I didn't push. I just waited for the phone to ring. 2023, the year she moved away. In March, Amanda signed a lease on a place in Scottsdale. $1,650 a month for a one-bedroom. 15 miles from my house, but it might as well have been across the country. "It's closer to work, Dad, and the neighborhood's really nice." "That's great, honey. I'm happy for you." The calls dropped to once or twice a month. Sometimes she'd pick up when I called. Most times she wouldn't. "Can't talk right now. At work." "I'll call you back." She never did. The house got quieter. I started eating dinner in front of the TV, frozen meals, canned soup. I'd sit on the couch with Catherine's photo on the mantel across from me, and I'd talk to her. "I don't know what I'm doing wrong," I'd say. "I don't know why she won't call." Catherine's smile never answered. Frank Donovan, my best friend from my days at the bank, stopped by once or twice a month. We'd sit on the back patio, drink beer, talk about the Diamondbacks, anything except what was really going on. "You should call her," Frank said one evening in June. "Just pick up the phone." I do call, she doesn't answer. "Then drive over there. Show up." "I'm not going to ambush my own daughter, Frank." He'd shrugged. "Suit yourself. But sitting here waiting isn't working either." He was right. But I didn't listen. Early 2024, the year everything changed. By spring, Amanda and I were barely speaking. A text here and there. Short, distant. "Happy birthday, Dad." "Thanks, sweetheart." "Love you." No phone call. No visit. I told myself it was normal. She was 32 years old. She had her own life, her own problems. I couldn't expect her to drop everything for her widowed father, but the loneliness was suffocating. And then in July she called. Out of the blue. First time in weeks. "Hey, Dad, quick question. How much is your rental property worth?" "The one in Tempe." I'd been so happy to hear her voice that I didn't even hesitate. "About $578,000, I think. Maybe a little more. Why do you ask?" "Oh, just curious. Brandon and I were talking about real estate investments." "Brandon. My boyfriend. I'll tell you about him later. I have to run. Love you." And she hung up. I should have asked more questions. Who was this Brandon? How long had they been dating? Why was she suddenly interested in my rental property? But I didn't, because I was just so damn grateful she'd called. I opened my eyes and looked around the empty community room. I'd been so lonely that I hadn't seen what was happening. I hadn't seen her pulling away or circling closer, depending on how you looked at it. I'd missed every single sign. The seniors started arriving at 11:30. Mrs. Patterson took her usual seat in the front row. Mr. Kim sat in the back with his notebook. "Morning, Warren." Mrs. Patterson waved. "Ready to teach us how not to get scammed?" I forced a smile. Always. I taught the class on autopilot, talked about red flags, about protecting your accounts, about not signing documents you haven't read even if the person asking is family. Especially if the person asking is family. Any questions? I asked at the end. Mrs. Patterson raised her hand. What if the person trying to steal from you is someone you love, someone you trust, with your whole heart? I looked at her for a long moment. Then you're in the hardest position of all, I said quietly, because you won't see it coming until it's too late. The room fell silent. I closed my laptop. Stay safe out there. They filed out slowly, thanking me as they left. Mrs. Patterson lingered by the door. Warren, are you all right? I'm fine, I lied. Just tired. She didn't look convinced, but she nodded and left. I packed up my things and walked to my car. It was 1:15. I drove home in silence. When I got there, I stood in the living room and looked at Catherine's photo. I was so lonely, I whispered. I didn't see it. I'm sorry. I went upstairs and changed into my suit. Navy blue, the one I used to wear to the important meetings at the bank. I looked at myself in the mirror. 58 years old. Tired, but still standing. I grabbed my laptop, my phone, and the folder of bank statements I'd printed that morning. At 1:45, I walked out the door. It was time to stop being a victim. It was time to be Warren Hughes again. James Maxwell's office was on the 3rd floor of a building on Camelback Road. Floor-to-ceiling windows, leather chairs, a desk made of dark wood. I sat across from him, folder of bank statements in my lap. He'd listened quietly while I walked him through everything. The withdrawals, the forged power of attorney, the rental house. Now he leaned back in his chair and looked at me. Tell me about your daughter's boyfriend, he said. When did you first meet him? I took a breath. April, this year. Walk me through it. April 2024. My house. It was a Saturday evening. Amanda had called that morning, first time in weeks, and asked if she could bring someone to dinner. I want you to meet Brandon, Dad. I think you're really going to like him. I said yes. Of course I said yes. They arrived at 6. Amanda looked happy, glowing, and the man beside her looked like he'd stepped out of a magazine. Tall, maybe 6'1", dark hair, expensive suit, charcoal gray, a watch that caught the light when he shook my hand. Mr. Hughes, it's an honor. His grip was firm, confident. Amanda's told me so much about you. Call me Warren. Come on in. We sat in the living room. Amanda brought out drinks. Brandon leaned back on the couch, completely at ease. So you're in real estate? I asked. That's right. Real estate investment. I run a family business, Hayes Properties, LLC. We focus on commercial properties, office buildings, retail spaces. How long have you been doing that? About 10 years. My parents started the company. I took over operations a few years ago. He talked easily, mentioned projects in Scottsdale, Paradise Valley, dropped names of developers, talked about cap rates, ROI, market trends. It all sounded impressive, but something felt off. I couldn't put my finger on it. Maybe it was the way he talked, smooth, rehearsed, like a salesman, not an investor. Or maybe it was the watch. I'd spent 30 years in banking. I knew what a real Tag Heuer looked like. That wasn't one. But I didn't say anything. Amanda looked so happy. What was your impression? Maxwell asked, pen poised over his notepad. Impressed, I said. On the surface. But my gut was telling me something was wrong. He talked too much. Too smooth. Like he was selling something. Maxwell nodded. What happened next? July, Amanda invited me to dinner with his parents. July 2024. The Arrogant Butcher, downtown Phoenix. Friday night, crowded restaurant. Brandon's parents were already there. Linda Hayes, mid-50s, elegant, warm smile. She stood and shook my hand. "Warren, it's wonderful to finally meet you. Amanda's told us so much." Richard Hayes, early 60s, graying hair, quiet. He shook my hand, said something about the weather, sat back down. We ordered. Linda did most of the talking. "Hayes Properties has been in the family for 20 years, she said. "Richard and I started it from nothing. Brandon's taken over now and we're so proud." "That's wonderful," I said. "We're thrilled Brandon found Amanda. We want to help them get started." She smiled. "We're planning to give them $250,000 as a wedding gift." I nearly choked on my drink. "That's very generous." "Family takes care of family," Linda said. Richard talked a little about golf. Linda talked about retiring to Sedona. Brandon and Amanda held hands across the table. I left that night thinking they were a nice family. I was wrong. "Did anything seem suspicious?" Maxwell asked. "Not at the time," I admitted. "They seemed legitimate, successful, generous. And the engagement. August. Amanda called, said he'd proposed." I remembered that call, her voice breathless. "Dad, he proposed we're getting married." "That's wonderful, sweetheart. I'm so happy for you." I was, but a small part of me was worried. They'd only known each other 4 months, I told Maxwell. I thought it was fast, but I didn't want to be the father who disapproved. I didn't want to push her away. So I said nothing. I smiled. I told her I was happy. Maxwell set down his pen and looked at me. "Mr. Hughes, everything you've described raises red flags. The fast relationship, the expensive lifestyle, the parents offering $250,000. He paused. "I think we need to dig deeper." "How?" "I'm going to hire a private investigator. Best one in Phoenix. Michael Brooks. He'll run a full background check on Brandon Hayes' financial records, criminal history, business registrations, everything." I nodded slowly. "Do it," I said. Maxwell was writing something in his notepad. He looked up. "Walk me through the financial transactions," he said. "When did you first give Amanda money?" I closed my eyes, trying to remember. "June. This year." "What happened?" "June 2024. Amanda called on a Tuesday afternoon. I was in the backyard watering the desert plants Catherine had loved. "Dad, I have an amazing opportunity." Her voice was excited, breathless. "I want to open a children's boutique in Scottsdale." "A boutique?" "Yes. High-end kids' clothing, toys, accessories. Brandon's been helping me with the business plan. His parents think it's a great idea." I felt a flicker of doubt. Amanda had never mentioned wanting to open a business before. "That sounds like a big undertaking," I said carefully. "I know, but Dad, this could really work. I've done the research. The market's there. I just need an investor." "How much are you looking for?" A pause. $50,000. I nearly dropped the hose. "Amanda, that's a lot of money." "I know, but think of it as an investment. I'll pay you back with interest. Brandon says we could see returns within a year." Brandon says. "I don't know, honey. Let me think about it." "Dad." Her voice shifted. Softer now. "Mom always told me to follow my dreams. She believed in me. Don't you?" And there it was. The one thing I couldn't argue with. Catherine would have wanted me to support our daughter. And of course I believe in you, I said quietly. Then help me, please. I wouldn't ask if it wasn't important. I should have said no. I should have asked more questions, but I didn't. All right, I said. Send me the business plan. Let me take a look. Thank you, Dad. Thank you so much. I love you. I love you too, sweetheart. July 8th, 2024. The business plan arrived by email. 15 pages. Professional looking. Projected revenues, expense breakdowns, market analysis. It looked legitimate. But I'd seen enough fake documents in my banking career to know that anyone with a computer and a template could make something look real. I should have had a lawyer review it. I should have done my due diligence. But I didn't. Because I wanted to believe my daughter. A week later, Amanda came to the house with the paperwork. An investor agreement. Statin. An LLC operating agreement. Both for a company called Little Stars Boutique LLC. Just sign here, here, and here, she said, pointing. I picked up the documents and started reading. Dad. Amanda's voice had an edge to it. Do you trust me or not? I looked up at her. She was standing by the window, arms crossed, jaw tight. Of course I trust you. Then sign the papers. Brandon's parents are investing too. This is a real opportunity. But if you don't believe in me, just say so. I signed, and I wired $50,000 to an account for Little Stars Boutique LLC. Did you ever see the boutique? Maxwell asked. No, I said. Not until last month. October 2024. I'd been asking Amanda about the store for weeks. When was it opening? Where was the location? Could I come see it? She kept putting me off. We're still renovating, Dad. I'll let you know when it's ready. So I decided to drive by myself. She'd mentioned the address once in passing. 8663 East Scottsdale Road. I found it on a Sunday afternoon. It was a vacant lot. Dirt, weeds, a chain-link fence, no store, no construction, nothing. I sat in my car for 20 minutes staring at that empty lot. $50,000, She lied, I said to Maxwell now. The whole thing was fake. There was never a boutique. Maxwell nodded slowly. What about the power of attorney? When did that happen? My jaw tightened. September. I got sick. September 14th to 18th, 2024. It started with a cough, then a fever, then chills so bad I couldn't get out of bed. By the time I called 911, my fever was 104.3 degrees, pneumonia. They admitted me to Banner Desert Medical Center, put me on antibiotics, kept me for 3 days. Amanda came to visit on the second day. September 16th. I was barely awake. The fever had broken, but I was weak, disoriented. Dad, I brought some paperwork. She pulled a folder out of her bag. Just routine stuff, insurance forms, medical consent, in case you need surgery or anything. I could barely focus on the pages. Everything was blurry. What is this? Just medical paperwork. Sign here and here and here. I signed 4 times. I didn't read a single page. Good, Amanda said, tucking the papers back into her bag. I'll take care of everything, Dad. Don't worry. And she left. I didn't think about it again until last week, when I pulled up the bank records and saw the withdrawals. It wasn't medical paperwork, I told Maxwell. It was a power of attorney, financial, real estate, bank authorization, everything. And the notary. Margaret Phillips, that's the name on the documents. But I looked her up. Her notary license expired on August 30th, and according to her daughter, she was in Sacramento visiting family on September 16th. She was never at that hospital. Maxwell was writing rapidly now. So the notary signature was forged. Yes. And you had no idea what you were signing? No, I was barely conscious. I trusted her. The room was quiet for a moment. Maxwell set down his pen and looked at me. Mr. Hughes, your daughter scammed you twice. The fake business investment and the fraudulent power of attorney. That's $50,000 in direct theft, plus the $225,000 she took using the POA, and the attempted sale of your rental property for $578,000. I felt sick. I was a fool, I said quietly. No. Maxwell's voice was firm. You were a father who loved his daughter. There's a difference. I didn't respond, because I wasn't sure he was right. We'll freeze the sale of the rental house, Maxwell continued. And we'll file fraud charges, criminal charges, against both Amanda and Brandon. Both of them. Yes. This was clearly coordinated. He's involved. Trust me. I nodded slowly. What happens next? I'll contact the title company, Secure Title LLC. I'll also file a report with the Gilbert Police Department, Fraud Division, and Michael Brooks will have his preliminary report in 48 hours. All right. Maxwell stood and extended his hand. Go home, Mr. Hughes. Try to rest. I'll call you as soon as I have updates. I walked out of Maxwell's office at 3:30. The Phoenix heat hit me the moment I stepped outside. I got in my car, started the engine, and sat there for a moment, hands on the wheel. September. That was the month everything fell apart. I pulled out of the parking lot and headed south toward home, and all I could think about was how I'd missed it. September the 8th, 2024, a Sunday evening, a month and a half ago. Amanda had called that afternoon. Dad, do you want to have dinner with me and Brandon, just the three of us? I'd said yes immediately. We met at True Food Kitchen in Scottsdale Quarter. They were already there when I arrived, sitting at a corner table holding hands. Amanda looked happy. Brandon looked relaxed, confident. We ordered, made small talk. Brandon mentioned wedding plans. We're thinking small, he said. Close family. Maybe 50 people. October 28th. That's soon, I said. Amanda smiled. When you know, you know. Then Brandon leaned back casual like it was nothing. Amanda mentioned you have a rental property in Tempe. Yeah, 2,943 Canyon View Circle. What's it worth? Around $578,000. He nodded. Good investment. We're thinking about getting into real estate ourselves. I didn't think anything of it. I should have. September 14th, 2024. It started Friday morning. A cough, then a fever. By Sunday, I couldn't get out of bed. My fever hit 104 degrees. I called 911. They took me to Banner Desert Medical Center. Pneumonia. Severe. 4 antibiotics. They said I'd be there a few days. I don't remember much from the first 2 days. Just fever. Machines beeping. Nurses checking vitals. Amanda didn't visit. Didn't call. September 16th, 2024. She showed up Monday afternoon. I was in bed half asleep, barely able to keep my eyes open. The fever had broken that morning, but I was still weak. Foggy. Dad. I opened my eyes. Amanda was standing beside the bed holding a folder. Hey, sweetheart, I mumbled. You came. Of course. She sat down. How are you feeling? Tired, but better. Good. She opened the folder. I brought some paperwork, just routine stuff, insurance forms, medical consent, in case you need surgery. I blinked at the papers. The words blurred. What is this? Hospital paperwork. You know how it is. They need signatures for everything. She pulled out a pen. Sign here, and here, and here, and here. 4 documents. I couldn't focus long enough to read them. Amanda, I can barely... It's okay, Dad. I already read them. Just consent forms. Nothing important. I signed. 4 times. I didn't read a single word. September 22nd, 2024. I came home from the hospital on the 20th. Still weak. Still exhausted. Sunday morning, I got an email from Amanda. Subject insurance documents. Please keep for records attachment 4 PDFs. I opened my laptop. Saw the email, saw the attachments, and I deleted it. I was too tired to care. I figured if it was important, she'd tell me. I never opened those files. October 27th, 2024. Now. I pulled into my driveway at 4 o'clock. The house was quiet. The way it always was. I sat in the car, staring at the front door. She'd planned it. The dinner on September 8th, where Brandon asked about the rental property. The hospital visit on September 16th, when I was too weak to think. The email on the 22nd, when I was too tired to care. She'd waited until I was at my weakest. Then she'd struck. The hospital visit wasn't about checking on me. It was about getting my signature. I got out of the car and walked inside. The living room was dim. I hadn't opened the curtains in days. I walked to the mantel and stopped. Catherine's photo sat in its silver frame. Our anniversary 5 years before she passed. She was smiling, radiant. I picked it up. You always said Amanda was smart, I whispered. You were so proud. Straight A's, full scholarship. You'd tell people she could do anything she set her mind to. My throat tightened. I just wish you'd warned me, I said quietly, that she'd use it against me. I was still holding Catherine's photo when the phone rang. I set the frame back on the mantel and looked at my phone. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Hello. Warren. A woman's voice, familiar, but I couldn't place it. Yes. It's Rebecca Thompson, from Desert Valley. My old bank, the branch where I'd worked for 25 years. Rebecca, hi. I tried to keep my voice steady. What's going on? Warren, I'm calling because I saw some unusual activity on your accounts. Large withdrawals. I wanted to make sure it was really you. My chest tightened. What withdrawals? Let me pull up the records. I heard typing. Okay. Here we go. I sat down on the couch, phone pressed to my ear. October 24th, 9:47 in the morning. $90,000 transferred from your savings account to an account under the name Amanda Hughes. Account number ending in 3782. I closed my eyes. October 24th, 2:18 in the afternoon. $85,000 from savings transferred to an account listed as BH Investment LLC. BH, Brandon Hayes. October 25th, 11:03 a.m. $45,000 wire transfer to a company called Luxury Weddings AZ. The wedding. My money. Paying for their wedding. And October 26th, 3:42 in the afternoon, $500 cash withdrawal from an ATM at Scottsdale Fashion Square. The card used was registered to Amanda Hughes as an authorized user on your checking account. Rebecca paused. Warren, that's a total of $225,100 in 3 days. Did you authorize these transactions? No. My voice sounded hollow. I didn't. Are you sure? Because the transfers show they were made using online banking with your login credentials and a power of attorney on file. The power of attorney is fake, I said. Silence. Rebecca, my daughter, forged it. She tricked me into signing documents when I was in the hospital last month. I had pneumonia. I was barely conscious. I didn't know what I was signing. Another pause. Then her voice changed. Sharper. Professional. Warren, I'm freezing your accounts right now. Both checking and savings. No more transactions can go through. Thank you. And I'm flagging this as elder financial abuse. The fraud department will open an investigation. Elder financial abuse. The thing I'd spent 30 years teaching other people to avoid. And here I was. Rebecca. My throat felt tight. Did Amanda try to sell my rental property? More typing. Yes. There's a pending sale on file. 2,943 Canyon View Circle, Tempe. Buyer is listed as Raj and Priya Patel. Sale price $578,000. Closing date November 5th. 2 weeks away. Can you stop it? I'll contact the title company immediately. Who's handling the sale? Secure Title LLC. The CEO is Charles Bennett. I know Charles. I'll call him right now. We'll freeze the escrow. Thank you, Rebecca. My voice broke. I should have seen this coming. Warren. Her voice softened. You're not the first person this has happened to, and you won't be the last. Family members are the hardest to spot because we trust them. I was a banker for 30 years. I should have known better. You were a father who loved his daughter. That's not the same thing. I didn't respond. Warren, listen to me. You did the right thing by reporting this. A lot of people don't. They're too ashamed or they're too afraid of what it'll do to the family. But you're fighting back. That takes courage. I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. I'll call you as soon as I've spoken to Charles, Rebecca said. In the meantime, change your online banking password. And don't give Amanda any more access to anything. I won't. I'm sorry this happened to you, Warren. I really am. Thank you, Rebecca. I hung up. The house was silent again. I stared at my phone. $225, 100. Gone. In 72 hours. October 24th. October 25th. October 26th. 3 days. She'd taken everything, my savings, my rental income, even my checking account, and she'd done it in the span of a weekend. Right before the wedding. I stood up and walked to the window. The sun was starting to set, casting long shadows across the desert. Tomorrow was October 28th, Amanda's wedding day. She was going to walk down the aisle in a dress paid for with my money. She was going to say her vows in a venue paid for with my money. She was going to celebrate with champagne and cake and flowers, all paid for with my money. My money. The money I'd saved for 30 years. The money I'd planned to leave to her one day when I was gone. And she couldn't wait. She took it now. While I was still alive, while I was weak and sick and trusting. I thought about her standing in that hospital room, holding those papers, telling me they were just routine insurance forms. I thought about her smiling at me. It's okay, Dad. I already read them. Just sign. And I'd signed. Because I loved her. Because I trusted her. Because I was her father. And that's what fathers do. I looked at my reflection in the window. 58 years old, gray hair, tired eyes, a man who'd spent 3 decades protecting other people's money and couldn't protect his own. But I wasn't done yet. Tomorrow, Amanda would walk down that aisle. Tomorrow, she'd marry Brandon Hayes with my stolen money. But not for long, because I was going to stop her. I turned away from the window and picked up my phone. James Maxwell had given me his cell number. I dialed. He answered on the second ring. "Mr. Hughes." "It's done," I said. "The bank froze the accounts. They're flagging it as elder abuse, and they're contacting the title company to stop the house sale." "Good. That's exactly what we needed." "What happens next?" "Tomorrow morning, I'll file a police report with the Gilbert Police Department. Detective Daniel Carter handles fraud cases. He'll want to interview you." "All right, Mr. Hughes." Maxwell's voice was calm, steady. "You're doing the right thing." I wasn't sure I believed him, but I nodded anyway. "I'll call you tomorrow," I said, and hung up. I stood in the middle of the living room, phone in hand, staring at nothing. $225, 100. Gone in 3 days. And tomorrow she was getting married with my money. Not if I could stop her. At 5 o'clock I called Frank. "I need your help," I said. He was at my house 20 minutes later. Frank Donovan had been my closest friend for 30 years. We'd worked together at Desert Valley Bank, him in commercial, lending me in branch management. We'd retired around the same time. He understood numbers. He understood fraud. And right now, I needed someone who understood both. He walked into the kitchen and found me sitting at the table, laptop, open notepad covered in scribbles. "Warren?" He pulled out a chair and sat down. "What's going on?" I told him everything. The fake investment, the forged power of attorney, the hospital, the withdrawals, the rental house, the wedding tomorrow. He didn't interrupt, just listened, his face getting darker with every sentence. When I finished, he leaned back and shook his head. "Jesus, Warren. I know. Amanda did this. You're Amanda." "Yes. And this Brandon guy is behind it." "I think so, but I need proof." Frank was quiet for a moment, staring at the notepad. "Well, what are you going to do?" I looked at him. "I'm going to stop her." "Warren. She's a criminal, Frank. She thinks I'm old. She thinks I'm weak. She thinks she can steal from me and I'll just sit here and take it. She's your daughter. I know." My voice was hard. "But that doesn't change what she did." Frank nodded slowly. "All right, what's the plan?" I turned the notepad toward him. "Rebecca from the bank already froze my accounts. That's done. But there's more." Frank read the list. "Action Plan Bank, accounts frozen. Rebecca Thompson, title company, freeze house sale. $578,000 escrow. Attorney fraud complaint, filed James Maxwell police report, elder financial abuse. Gilbert PD private investigator background check on Brandon Hayes." "You've been busy," Frank said. "I'm just getting started." He looked up. "What do you need me to do?" "Stay here, in case I need backup. Or a witness." "Done." I picked up my phone. First call, Charles Bennett. 6:00 p.m., Secure Title LLC. I dialed the number Rebecca had given me. A man answered on the third ring. "Secure Title, this is Charles." "Mr. Bennett, my name is Warren Hughes. Rebecca Thompson from Desert Valley Bank gave me your number. I need to stop a real estate transaction." "What's the property address?" 2943 Canyon View Circle, Tempe. Typing sounds. "Okay, I see it." Sale to Raj and Priya Patel. Closing November 5th. $578,000. What's the issue? My daughter is trying to sell that property without my permission. She used a forged power of attorney. Silence. Mr. Bennett, I have bank statements showing fraud. I have an attorney filing a complaint. And I'm about to file a police report. The POA is fake. The notary's license was expired. The notary wasn't even in Arizona on the date listed. Do you have proof? Yes, I can send you everything. More typing. All right, Mr. Hughes, I'm freezing the escrow account. The $578,000 will not be released until this is resolved, and I'm flagging the transaction as disputed. Thank you. I'm sorry this happened to you. Me too. I hung up and looked at Frank. One down. He nodded. What's next? Police, 7:00 p.m., Gilbert Police Department. The station was quiet on a Sunday evening. I walked up to the front desk and told the officer I needed to file a report for elder financial abuse. She led me to a small room. A detective joined us 10 minutes later. Detective Daniel Carter. Mid-40s, sharp eyes, calm demeanor. Mr. Hughes. I'm Detective Carter. I handle fraud cases. Tell me what happened. I walked him through everything. The timeline, the withdrawals, the fake POA, the rental house. He took notes, asked questions, didn't interrupt. When I finished, he set down his pen. Mr. Hughes, this is textbook elder financial abuse. You have a strong case. Do you have documentation? I pulled out the folder, bank statements, emails, copies of the forged POA documents. He reviewed them carefully. This is good. Very thorough. He looked up. I'm opening an investigation. We'll need to interview your daughter and her fiancé, but I have to tell you this could take time. Fraud cases move slowly. How long? Weeks, maybe months. The wedding is tomorrow. He nodded. I understand. But I can't stop a wedding, Mr. Hughes. I can only investigate the financial crimes. What if they run? Then we'll issue a warrant. But for now, all we can do is build the case. I clenched my jaw. All right. I'll be in touch, Carter said. In the meantime, don't contact your daughter. Don't threaten her. Don't do anything that could jeopardize the investigation. Understood. I shook his hand and walked out. 8:30 p.m. Michael Brooks, private investigator. Back in the car, I dialed the number James Maxwell had given me. A man answered. Deep voice. Professional. Brooks Investigations. Mr. Brooks, my name is Warren Hughes. James Maxwell referred me. I need you to run a background check on someone. What's the name? Brandon Hayes. 34 years old. Claims to be a real estate investor in Scottsdale. What do you want to know? Everything. Criminal history, financial records, business registrations, previous relationships. Anything you can find. That'll take time. How long? 48 hours for a preliminary report. Maybe less. Do it. My rate is $150 an hour plus expenses. Fine. Send me the contract. I'll sign tonight. You'll have it in 10 minutes. I hung up. Frank was waiting when I got home. How'd it go? Title company froze the sale. Police opened an investigation. PI's on the case. Frank stood. You did good, Warren. I haven't done anything yet. You fought back. That's more than most people do. He grabbed his jacket. You going to be okay tonight? Yeah. Call me if you need anything. Thanks, Frank. He left. The house was quiet again. I walked to the mantel and picked up Catherine's photo. I couldn't protect you, I whispered. But I can protect myself. And maybe somehow I can still protect Amanda. From herself. I set the photo down and looked at the clock. 9 o'clock. Tomorrow was the wedding. Amanda thought she'd won. Thought she'd gotten away with it. She had no idea what was coming. I turned off the lights and headed upstairs. Tomorrow the real fight would begin. I didn't sleep that night. By 9 o'clock the next morning, I was back in James Maxwell's office. Wedding day. October 28th, 2024. Maxwell was at his desk, coffee in hand, reviewing documents. He looked up when I walked in. "Mr. Hughes, how are you holding up?" "I'm fine. I wasn't fine." He gestured to the chair. I sat. "The police opened an investigation," I said. "Detective Carter, Fraud Division." "Good. That's exactly what we need." And the title company froze the escrow. $578,000. Charles Bennett confirmed it last night. Maxwell nodded. "We're building a strong case, but there's one more thing we should do." "What?" "Call Amanda." I stared at him. "Warn her," he said. "Give her one last chance to make this right. If she returns, the money cooperates with the investigation, it could reduce the charges against her. She won't listen. Maybe not. But if you warn her and she ignores you, it strengthens our case. It shows she had knowledge of the fraud and chose to proceed anyway." I looked out the window at the Phoenix skyline. And if I don't call, then she goes to prison without ever knowing she had a choice. I closed my eyes. She was my daughter. Even after everything, she was still my daughter. "All right," I said. "I'll call." Maxwell slid his phone across the desk. "Use mine, in case she's blocked your number." I picked it up and dialed. It rang 3 times. Then Amanda answered. "Hello." Her voice was bright, happy. She didn't recognize the number. "Amanda," I said. "It's me." Silence. "Dad." Her tone shifted, colder. "What do you want?" "We need to talk. I'm getting ready for my wedding. This isn't a good time." "Amanda, listen to me. I know what you did. The power of attorney, the withdrawals, the house sale." A pause. "I don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie to me. I was a banker for 30 years. I know fraud when I see it. You gave me that power of attorney. You signed it. You forged the notary. Margaret Phillips's license expired on August 30th, and she was in Sacramento on September 16th, the day you claim she witnessed my signature." Silence. "Amanda, I hired a private investigator. I know about Brandon. He's not who you think he is." "What are you talking about?" "He has a daughter, Chloe, 4 years old. Her mother is Melissa Rodriguez, a dental hygienist in Tempe. Brandon owes $42,000 in child support. There's a warrant for his arrest." "That's not your lying." "His parents aren't his parents. Linda and Richard Hayes. They're actors. Denise Crawford and Alan Porter. He paid them $4,500 to pretend to be his family." I heard her breathing on the other end. Fast. Panicked. "Amanda, Brandon is a con artist. He's done this before. He scammed 2 other women, Michelle Torres in Denver, $95,000. Jennifer Adams in San Diego, $67,000. He targets women with money, gains their trust, and disappears." "You're making this up." Her voice was rising now. "You hate Brandon. You never wanted me to be happy." "That's not true." "You're jealous." You've been alone for 3 years, and you can't stand that I found someone. Amanda, please listen. No. She was yelling now. You listen to me. You've always blamed me for Mom. You think it's my fault she's gone. You've always blamed me. I've never blamed you. Yes, you have. She was crying now. Angry, broken sobs. You stopped calling. You stopped visiting. You made me feel like I wasn't enough, like I could never replace her. Amanda, I'm done with you, Dad. Don't call me. Don't come to my wedding. I don't want you in my life anymore. The line went dead. I sat there, phone still pressed to my ear, staring at nothing. Maxwell was watching me, his expression carefully neutral. I set the phone down. My hands were shaking. She hung up, I said quietly. I heard. Frank Donovan, who'd been sitting quietly in the corner, stood and walked over. He put a hand on my shoulder. Warren. She chose him, I said. My voice sounded hollow. She chose a con artist over her own father. She's scared, Frank said, and he's manipulated her. That's what con artists do. Then I'll have to save her, I said, even if she hates me for it. Maxwell opened a drawer and pulled out a folder. He slid it across the desk. The PI report came in this morning, faster than expected. I looked at the folder. Brandon Hayes, full background investigation. Michael Brooks, private investigator. October 28th, 2024. I opened it. The first page was a summary. Subject, Brandon Michael Hayes. DOB, March 15th, 1990. Age 34, current residence, Optima Kierland Apartments. Scottsdale, AZ, lease $2. $400 per month, employment, unemployed claims. Real estate investor, criminal record, 2021 Denver, Colorado fraud. Victim Michelle Torres. Amount $95,000. Charges filed, suspect fled jurisdiction. 2022 San Diego CA fraud. Victim Jennifer Adams. Amount $67,000. Charges filed, suspect fled jurisdiction. Outstanding warrants, Maricopa County AZ, failure to pay child support. Amount owed $42,000. Issued June 2023. Known aliases, none assets. None identified, debts, credit cards, $78,000, 5 accounts, all maxed. Car lease, BMW 5, Series $850 per month, 2 months overdue. Child support, $42,000, arrears $1. $200 per month current. I flipped to the next page. Family background. Linda Hayes and Richard Hayes are not Brandon Hayes' biological parents. Real identities. Denise Crawford, 57, actress/waitress, Tempe, Arizona. Alan Porter, 61, retired car salesman, Mesa, Arizona, hired via online ad July 2024. Payment $2,500, Denise $2,000, Alan. Contract. Attend 2 dinners, pose as parents. PI interviewed both. Both confirmed arrangement. Provided contracts, text messages, payment receipts. I looked up at Maxwell. He's done this before. Yes. And Amanda has no idea. Not yet. I closed the folder. What happens now? Now. Maxwell leaned forward. Now we wait. The wedding will happen. Brandon will think he's gotten away with it. And then when they least expect it, we move. How long? A few days. Maybe a week. Detective Carter needs time to gather evidence, interview witnesses. But when we move fast. I stood. I should go. Mr. Hughes. Maxwell's voice stopped me at the door. You did the right thing. Calling her. Warning her. She may not see it now, but one day she will. I didn't respond, because I wasn't sure he was right. I walked out into the bright Phoenix morning. Somewhere across the city, my daughter was getting married. To a man who'd stolen my money. To a man who'd lied to her about everything, and there was nothing I could do to stop it. Not today, but soon. I went home. What else was I supposed to do? I couldn't go to the wedding. Amanda had made that clear. So I sat at my kitchen table, opened the PI report, and started reading. 37 pages. Brandon Michael Hayes. Full Background Investigation by Michael Brooks. Private Investigator. October 28, 2024. Page 1 Summary. I'd already read this part in Maxwell's office. Brandon Hayes, 34 years old. Unemployed. Criminal record. Outstanding warrants. But the details were in the rest of the report. Page 3. Criminal history. 2021. Denver, Colorado. Victim Michelle Torres. 29 marketing manager, amount stolen $95. 000 method. Brandon claimed his family owned a restaurant and needed capital to expand. Michelle took out a personal loan to invest. 2 weeks later, Brandon vanished, changed his phone number, deleted all social media accounts, left the state. Police report filed. No arrest made. Brandon fled to California. 2022. San Diego, California victim Jennifer Adams, 32, nurse amount, stolen $67,000 method. Brandon claimed his mother needed emergency surgery and he didn't have insurance. Jennifer gave him her savings. He disappeared the next day. Police report filed, classified as a civil matter by local PD. No arrest made. Brandon fled to Arizona. I set the report down and stared at the wall. He'd done this before, twice, and he was doing it again. To my daughter. Page 8. Financial profile. Current debts. Credit cards. $78,000 across 5 accounts, all maxed out. Car lease BMW. 5 Series, $850 per month, 2 months overdue. Repossession pending. Apartment rent, Optima, Kierland, $2,400 per month. 1 month overdue. Gambling debts, $12,000 owed to online casinos. Child support, $42,000, arrears, $1. $200 per month current order, total debt, $132,000, plus assets. None identified income, none verifiable. He was drowning. And he was using my money, my daughter, to stay afloat. Page 14. Business investigation. Hayes Properties, LLC. Business registration, none tax filings, none employees, none office location, none website created. June 2024, using a free template, Wix. No legitimate content. No client testimonials. No project portfolio. Conclusion. Hayes Properties, LLC is a fabrication. The business does not exist. I thought about that dinner in July, Linda and Richard Hayes talking about their family business, how proud they were of Brandon. All lies. Page 19. Parents. Investigation. Linda Hayes equals Denise Crawford, age 57, occupation actress/waitress, Tempe hired. July 2024 via online ad payment $2. 500 role pose as Brandon's mother at 2 family dinners, evidence contract, signed text messages, payment receipt, Venmo photograph from dinner, the arrogant butcher. July 12, 2024, PI interview Denise, confirmed arrangement. Quote, I thought it was harmless, just acting. I didn't know he was stealing from anyone. Richard Hayes equals Alan Porter. age 61. Occupation retired car salesman, Mesa hired, July 2024, via same ad payment, $2,000 role pose as Brandon's father at 2 family dinners, evidence contract signed, text messages, payment receipt, I interview Alan confirmed. Quote, I needed the money. I'm living on Social Security. $2,000 for 2 dinners seemed easy. I feel terrible now. I closed my eyes. I'd sat across the table from them. I'd believed them. I'd thought they were a nice family. Page 25. Chloe Hayes and Melissa Rodriguez, age 30. Occupation dental hygienist, Tempe relationship. Dated Brandon Hayes, 2018 to 2019, Chloe Hayes, age 4. DOB June 15, 2020. Father Brandon Hayes. N. A test confirmed court-ordered 2021 child support order $1,200 per month. Arrears $42. Brandon has not paid since order issued, warrant issued June 2023 for failure to pay. Recent development, October 2024. Brandon wired $15,000 to Melissa Rodriguez on October 24, 2024. First payment in 3 years. Source of funds. Unknown, presumed stolen from Warren Hughes. I spoke with Melissa. Quote, he said he came into some money. I thought maybe he'd finally gotten a job. I had no idea it was stolen. Analysis: Brandon likely paid partial child support to clear the warrant and avoid arrest before obtaining a marriage license. I felt sick. He'd used my money, my daughter's theft, to pay off his debt to another woman, so he could marry Amanda without getting arrested. My phone rang. Detective Daniel Carter. Mr. Hughes, I wanted to update you. We have enough evidence for an arrest warrant. Multiple counts: fraud, identity theft, forgery, elder financial abuse. When? That's why I'm calling. I need you to let the wedding happen. I stood up. What? If we move now, if we arrest Brandon before the ceremony, Amanda might panic. She might destroy evidence, delete emails, erase bank records, claim she was coerced. She was coerced. Maybe. But we need her cooperation. And the best way to get that is to let her see what kind of man she married. Let her realize on her own that she made a mistake. How long do I have to wait? A few days, maybe a week. Let them go on their honeymoon. Let Brandon think he got away with it. Then we arrest him. And Amanda, she'll be questioned. If she cooperates, the DA might offer a plea deal, reduced charges, probation instead of prison. And if she doesn't, then she goes down with him. I hung up. It was 1 o'clock. The wedding was at 6. I sat at the table staring at the report for hours. At 5:30, I got in my car. I wasn't going to the wedding, but I needed to see it. I needed to know this was real. 6 p.m. The Clayton House, Scottsdale. I parked across the street, far enough that no one would notice me, close enough that I could see. The venue was beautiful, string lights, white flowers. A small crowd, maybe 50 people, gathered on the lawn. And then I saw her. Amanda, in a white dress. Hair done. Makeup perfect. She looked radiant. She looked happy. Brandon stood at the altar in a tuxedo, smiling, confident, like he'd won. The guests were cheering. I sat in my car, hands gripping the steering wheel, and watched my daughter marry a con artist. With my money. I'm sorry, sweetheart, I whispered. But this ends tonight. The address sat in my phone like a loaded gun, 1847 South Mill Avenue, Tempe, Arizona, apartment 2B. It was November 5th, 10 in the morning, and I was driving south on I-10, toward the woman my daughter's husband had abandoned 3 years ago. The private investigator had handed me her contact information, along with everything else: photos of a little girl with Brandon's eyes, court documents for unpaid child support, text messages begging for grocery money that had gone unanswered for months. Melissa Rodriguez, 30 years old, dental hygienist, single mother. One more victim in Brandon Hayes' long trail of wreckage. I parked outside a modest 2-story apartment complex with faded stucco and a cracked pool. The kind of place where people work 2 jobs and still struggle to make rent. I climbed the stairs slowly, my banker instincts screaming that I was about to hear something I didn't want to know. She answered on the first knock. Melissa was petite, with dark hair pulled into a ponytail and tired eyes that looked older than 30. She wore scrubs, pale blue, the kind you see in dental offices, and held the door halfway open, cautious. "Mr. Hughes." "Yes. Thank you for agreeing to meet." She stepped aside. "Come in." The apartment was small but clean. A kid's drawing taped to the fridge, a basket of laundry on the couch, the faint smell of toast. In the corner, a little girl sat on the floor coloring with crayons. 4 years old, dark curls, Brandon's sharp jawline and his mother's soft eyes. "Chloe." "She's beautiful," I said quietly. Melissa's expression softened just a fraction. "She's my whole world." We sat at a small kitchen table. Melissa poured 2 cups of coffee, her hands steady but her voice brittle. I met Brandon in 2018, she began, at a charity event in Scottsdale. He was charming, confident, well-dressed. He told me he was a real estate investor, said he owned properties all over the valley. I nodded. The same script, the same lie. We dated for about a year. He was intense, romantic. He'd show up with flowers, take me to expensive restaurants. I thought I'd found someone who actually saw me, I understand. Then I got pregnant. Her voice dropped, and everything changed. She stared into her coffee. At first he said he was excited, said we'd get married, buy a house, build a life. But the closer I got to my due date, the more distant he became. Missed appointments, stopped answering calls. When did he leave? December 2020. Chloe was 6 months old. Melissa's jaw tightened. He packed his things one night while I was at work. Left a note that said he wasn't ready to be a father. I haven't seen him since. 6 months old. I thought of Amanda at 6 months old, her tiny fingers wrapped around mine, her laughter filling our home. The idea of walking away from that, of abandoning your own child, made my stomach turn. Did he ever pay child support? I asked, though I already knew the answer. Not a dime. I took him to court in 2021. Got a DNA test, got a support order for $1,200 a month. He ignored it. Moved apartments, changed his phone number, disappeared. She shook her head bitterly. The state issued a warrant in June 2023. I figured I'd never see a cent. But last month, out of nowhere, $15,000 showed up in my account. Melissa looked at me, confused and wary. Wire transfer. No note. No explanation. I didn't know what to think. My chest tightened. $15,000. October 24th. The same day, Amanda had wired $90,000 from my savings account. It was my money, I said quietly. Melissa's face went pale. What? Brandon stole $225,000 from me. He used my daughter to do it. That $15,000 he sent you, it wasn't his. It was mine. For a long moment, she just stared at me. Then her hand covered her mouth and her eyes filled with tears. Oh my God. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I thought maybe he'd finally... She stopped shaking her head. I should have known better. You have nothing to apologize for, I said firmly. He manipulated you just like he manipulated my daughter. Just like he manipulated everyone. Melissa wiped her eyes. Why would he send it now, after 3 years? Because he needed to clear the warrant before he could get a marriage license. He married my daughter on October 28th. He used my money to buy his freedom so he could trap her. The disgust on her face mirrored my own. From the corner, Chloe looked up. Mommy, can I have juice? Melissa's expression shifted instantly, soft, protective. Of course, baby. She poured a small cup of apple juice and handed it to her daughter, brushing a curl from Chloe's forehead. The tenderness in that gesture broke something inside me. I thought of Amanda at 4 years old. Pigtails and scraped knees and absolute trust in her father. Where had I lost her? I reached into my jacket and pulled out an envelope, $5,000 in cash. Money I'd withdrawn from a separate account Brandon hadn't touched. This is for Chloe, I said, setting it on the table. Melissa's eyes widened. Mr. Hughes, I can't. Yes, you can. You've been raising his daughter alone for 3 years. You deserve support, and so does she. I met her gaze. I can't undo what he did, but I can try to help. Her hands trembled as she picked up the envelope. Thank you, I don't know what to say. Say you'll testify. She blinked. Want to testify? Brandon is going to face charges for fraud, identity theft, elder abuse. If you're willing your testimony about the child, support the abandonment, the $15,000, it'll help put him away. Melissa looked at Chloe, then back at me. Her voice was steel. I'll testify. He needs to be held accountable for what he's done. Thank you. I stood. Melissa walked me to the door, Chloe trailing behind her, clutching a stuffed bunny. Mr. Hughes. I turned. Your daughter, do you think she knows about Chloe? I don't think so, but she will. Melissa nodded slowly. I hope she's okay. I hope she gets out before he destroys her too. So do I. I drove home in silence, hands tight on the wheel. Brandon Hayes wasn't just a con man. He was a destroyer of families. He left Melissa alone with a baby. He drained my life savings. He manipulated my daughter into betraying her own father, and he almost succeeded. But not anymore. Because now I had Melissa. I had the bank records. I had the evidence. And I wasn't going to let him destroy one more family. The call came on Friday night, 3 days after I met Melissa and Chloe. I was sitting in my kitchen, the same chair I'd occupied the morning I discovered the empty accounts, when my phone buzzed. Amanda's name lit up the screen. I let it ring twice before I answered. Hello, Amanda. Her voice was ice. We need to talk. No greeting, no pretense, just cold, surgical hostility. I'm listening. You need to drop the lawsuit. You need to call the bank and unfreeze the accounts. And you need to call the title company and release the escrow on the house. I leaned back in my chair, letting the silence stretch. Or Brandon and I will file a petition with the court to have you declared incompetent. We'll request a psychological evaluation, a guardianship hearing, and if necessary, we'll have you committed to a memory care facility. My stomach twisted, but I kept my voice steady. A memory care facility. That's right. Her tone was clipped, rehearsed. You're 58 years old. You're showing signs of confusion, paranoia, memory loss. You signed documents you claim you don't remember. You're making wild accusations against your own family. A judge will see that. I heard Brandon's voice in the background, low and smooth, coaching her. How much does a facility like that cost? I asked quietly. Around $8,500 a month. Don't worry, we'll make sure you're comfortable. $8,500 a month. For the rest of my life. Locked away, stripped of my autonomy while they drained whatever was left. It was a good plan. Clean. Legal. Cruel. You've thought this through, I said. We have. Her voice sharpened. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to admit you made a mistake. You're going to apologize. And you're going to make this right. Or you'll destroy me. Or we'll protect you, she corrected. From yourself. I closed my eyes and thought of Catherine. Thought of the little girl who used to draw pictures of superheroes. Thought of Melissa Rodriguez holding a 4-year-old child Brandon had abandoned. And I thought, enough. Amanda, before you do that, there are a few things you should know about your husband. I don't want to hear. In 2021, Brandon defrauded a woman named Michelle Torres in Denver. He convinced her to invest $95,000 in a fake restaurant. She lost her retirement savings. Silence. In 2022, he did it again. Jennifer Adams, San Diego, $67,000. He told her his mother needed surgery. There was no mother. No surgery. That's a lie. Your in-laws, Linda and Richard Hayes. Their real names are Denise Crawford and Alan Porter. They're actors. Brandon paid them $4,500 to pretend to be his parents at that dinner in July. I heard her breath catch. And the best part, Amanda Brandon has a 4-year-old daughter. Her name is Chloe. Her mother is Melissa Rodriguez, a dental hygienist in Tempe. He hasn't paid a dime of child support in 3 years. He owes $42,000. There's a warrant out for his arrest. You're lying. He sent Melissa $15,000 on October 24th, the same day you wired $90,000 from my savings account. He used my money to clear the warrant so he could marry you. Stop it. He's a con man, Amanda. He's been running this scam for years, and you helped him do it. Brandon. Her voice turned away from the phone, sharp and panicked. Brandon, what is he talking about? What daughter? What actors? I heard Brandon's voice, distant but fast, trying to control the narrative. Baby, he's lying. He's trying to... Who the hell is Melissa Rodriguez? Amanda, listen to me. Who is Denise Crawford? The line exploded into shouting. Amanda's voice, shrill and furious. Brandon's voice louder, defensive, scrambling. I heard something crash, a glass, maybe a plate, and then the call cut off. I set the phone down on the table and stared at it. 30 seconds later, it rang again. Unknown number. I answered. Hello, Mr. Hughes. A woman's voice. Older. Shaky. This is Denise Crawford. I sat up straight. Ms. Crawford, I need to talk to you. About Brandon. I'm listening. She took a breath. It sounded like she'd been crying. I didn't know. When he hired me, I didn't know what he was doing. He said it was a prank. A surprise for his girlfriend. He said her real parents had passed away, and he wanted to give her a family experience before he proposed. And you believed him. I'm an actress, Mr. Hughes. I take gigs where I can get them. $2,500 for one dinner, it seemed harmless. Her voice cracked. But then I saw the news. I saw your name. I saw the lawsuit. And I realized I helped him steal from you. You did. I'm so sorry. She was crying now. I have a father. He's 73. If someone did this to him, I'd... She stopped. I want to make this right. I'll testify. I'll give you everything, the contract, the text messages, the Venmo receipts. Whatever you need. I exhaled slowly. Thank you, Miss Crawford. I'm sorry, she whispered again. I'm so sorry. The line went dead. I sat there in the dark, phone in hand, the weight of the last 2 weeks pressing down on my chest like a stone. A knock at the door. I didn't move. Another knock. Warren, it's Frank. Open up. I let him in. Frank Donovan took one look at me and steered me back to the kitchen table. He didn't ask questions. He just made coffee, set a mug in front of me, and sat down. She called, I said finally. Amanda. She threatened to have me declared incompetent, put me in a memory care facility. $8,500 a month. Frank's jaw tightened. Jesus. Then I told her about Chloe, about Melissa, about the fake parents. I looked at him. She didn't know Frank. She had no idea. And now she does. I nodded. Frank leaned forward, his voice low and firm. Listen to me. You didn't destroy her marriage. You didn't ruin her life. You're saving her life. She doesn't see it that way. Not yet, but she will. He gripped my shoulder. Brandon Hayes is a predator. He was going to bleed her dry and leave her with nothing. You stopped him. I looked down at my coffee. I just wish it didn't have to be like this. I know. We sat in silence, two old men in a dark kitchen, while somewhere across the valley my daughter's world fell apart, and I couldn't do a damn thing to stop it. Sunday morning, November 10th. James Maxwell's office was quiet. The hallways empty except for the hum of the air conditioning and the distant sound of traffic on Camelback Road. I sat across from Maxwell at his desk, a yellow legal pad between us covered in names and notes. Frank Donovan sat to my right, arms crossed, his face set in grim determination. Let's go through the witness list one more time, Maxwell said, tapping his pen against the pad. Preliminary hearing is in 6 days. We need everyone locked in. I nodded. Go ahead. Denise Crawford, he began. Also known as Linda Hayes, she's agreed to testify about the fake parent scheme. She'll bring the contract Brandon gave her, the text messages and the Venmo receipts, showing he paid her $2,500. She called me Friday night, I said. She sounded genuinely remorseful. Good. Remorse plays well in court. Maxwell made a note. Alan Porter, Richard Hayes. Same deal. $2,000. He's on board. Between the two of them, we can prove Brandon fabricated his entire family background. Frank leaned forward. What about the women he scammed before? Michelle Torres, Denver, 2021. $95,000 stolen through a fake restaurant investment scheme. She's willing to testify via Zoom. Maxwell flipped a page. Jennifer Adams, San Diego, 2022. $67,000. Same story, fake crisis, fake urgency, real money. She'll also testify remotely. I felt a flicker of gratitude toward these women. They didn't have to come forward. They could have stayed silent, buried. The shame moved on. But they chose to speak. And Melissa Rodriguez, I asked. She's local, so she'll appear in person. Single mother, 4-year-old daughter, 3 years of unpaid child support. Her testimony establishes a pattern of abandonment and financial irresponsibility. Maxwell looked at me. She'll be compelling. I thought of Chloe coloring on the floor of that small apartment. She's a good mother. She deserves justice. She'll get it. Maxwell set down his pen. Now the harder part. Detective Carter called me yesterday. I straightened. What did he say? Amanda is also under investigation. The words hung in the air like a blade. For what? Frank asked, though we all knew the answer. Conspiracy to commit fraud, identity theft, forgery. She directly withdrew funds from your accounts using the forged power of attorney. She signed the documents. She facilitated the sale of the rental property. Maxwell's voice was clinical, detached. The state has enough evidence to charge her as a co-conspirator. My chest tightened. How much time? If convicted, 18 months to 3 years. 3 years. My daughter. In prison. Jesus. Frank muttered. Maxwell leaned back in his chair. But the prosecutor is willing to offer a deal. What kind of deal? Amanda testifies against Brandon, full cooperation. She provides documentation, communications, anything that ties him to the fraud. In exchange, the prosecutor will recommend a suspended sentence, probation, community service, restitution, but no jail time. I stared at him. And if she refuses, then she goes to trial. And if she's convicted, she serves the full sentence. Frank looked at me. Has she been contacted? Carter tried to reach her yesterday. She didn't answer. He left a message explaining the situation and gave her until Wednesday to respond. Wednesday. 3 days from now. What do you think she'll do? Frank asked quietly. I didn't answer. I didn't know. Would she cooperate? Would she finally see Brandon for what he was, a liar, a thief, a man who had used her to destroy her own father, or would she refuse? Would she stand by him, convinced that I was the villain, that this was all some elaborate scheme to control her life? I thought of the girl who used to hold my hand crossing the street, the girl who drew pictures of superheroes, the girl who promised to take care of me after her mother passed. And I thought of the woman who had threatened to lock me in a memory care facility. I didn't know which version of Amanda would show up on Wednesday. Warren, Maxwell's voice pulled me back. Sorry. What? I asked if you want me to reach out to her. Lawyer to lawyer. Explain the situation. I hesitated. Would it help? It might. Sometimes hearing it from a neutral party makes a difference. Do it, I said. But don't pressure her. Just make sure she understands what she's facing. Maxwell nodded. I will. We finished the meeting an hour later. Frank walked me to my car, his hand on my shoulder. She'll do the right thing, he said. I hope so. She's your daughter, Warren. Deep down, she knows the truth. I wanted to believe him. I really did. But I'd spent the last 2 weeks learning that the people you trust the most can hurt you the deepest. The night of November 15th, I lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling. Tomorrow was the preliminary hearing. Tomorrow a judge would decide whether there was enough evidence to move forward with charges against Brandon Hayes. And somewhere across the valley, Amanda was making a choice. Cooperate and save herself. Refuse and go down with the man who had destroyed us both. I thought of Catherine, wondered what she would say, wondered if she would forgive me for what I was about to do to our daughter. At 2 a.m. my phone buzzed, a text from James Maxwell. Amanda's attorney just called. She's in. She'll testify. Preliminary hearing is still on for tomorrow 9 a.m. I read the message 3 times. Then I set the phone down, closed my eyes, and let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. She chose the truth. She chose to survive. And maybe, just maybe, she chose me. The Maricopa County Superior Court sat like a concrete fortress in downtown Phoenix, its glass and steel facade glinting in the early morning sun. I arrived at 8 o'clock, my tie knotted too tight, my hands clammy despite the dry November air. Frank met me at the entrance. He didn't say anything, just clapped me on the shoulder and walked beside me through security, through the lobby, up the elevator to the 3rd floor. James Maxwell was waiting outside courtroom 3C, briefcase in hand, his expression calm and professional. Ready? He asked. I nodded, though I wasn't sure I was. Brandon's already inside. He was transferred from the 4th Avenue jail this morning. And Amanda? Maxwell's face tightened. She's not coming. My stomach dropped. What do you mean she's not coming? She said she'd testify. She will, but not today. This is just the preliminary hearing. The judge will decide if there's enough evidence to proceed to trial. Amanda's testimony comes later. He paused. She asked to stay away from the courthouse today. She's struggling. I wanted to ask more, but the bailiff opened the door and called us inside. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Wood-paneled walls, fluorescent lights, rows of empty benches. A handful of people sat scattered in the gallery, journalists, I guessed, or curious onlookers. I took a seat in the front row, Frank beside me, Maxwell at the prosecutor's table, and then they brought him in. Brandon Hayes. He wore an orange jumpsuit, his hands cuffed in front of him, his hair disheveled, his face pale and unshaven. Gone was the polished confidence, the expensive suit, the Tag Heuer watch. He looked smaller now, diminished. But when his eyes found mine, they burned with rage. He stared at me across the courtroom, his jaw clenched, his expression promising violence. I held his gaze and didn't look away. You did this to yourself, I thought. Not me. The bailiff announced the judge, Honorable Margaret Finch, a woman in her 60s with steel-gray hair and a no-nonsense demeanor. She took her seat, opened a file, and looked at Brandon without a trace of sympathy. Mr. Hayes, you are charged with 8 counts. Please remain standing. Brandon stood, his public defender, a tired-looking man in an ill-fitting suit, beside him. The prosecutor, a sharp woman named Lisa Ortega, rose from her table. Your Honor, the state charges the defendant with the following: Count 1, elder financial abuse, Arizona Revised Statutes, Section 46-456. The defendant, through fraudulent means, obtained $225,100 from the victim, Warren Hughes, age 58. Count 2, forgery, ARS 13-2002. The defendant facilitated the creation of forged power of attorney documents bearing a falsified notary seal. Count 3, fraudulent schemes and artifices, ARS 13-2310. The defendant engaged in a pattern of deception to unlawfully obtain money and property. Count 4, theft, ARS 13-1802. The defendant unlawfully took control of the victim's financial assets. Count 5, identity theft, ARS 13-2008. The defendant used falsified documents to impersonate authorized authority over the victim's accounts. Count 6, child support evasion, ARS 25-681. The defendant owes $42,000 in unpaid child support and has evaded legal obligations for 3 years. Counts 7 and 8. Additional conspiracy and fraud charges related to prior victims in Colorado and California. Judge Finch looked at Brandon. How do you plead? Brandon's lawyer cleared his throat. Not guilty, Your Honor. Noted. Ms. Ortega, call your first witness. For the next 2 hours, I watched the case against Brandon Hayes unfold like a landslide. Denise Crawford took the stand first. She was nervous, her voice shaking, but she told the truth. She described the contract, the $2,500, the text messages, where Brandon had coached her on what to say at the dinner. She presented the Venmo receipts, the fake script he'd given her. Brandon's face went red. Alan Porter followed. Same story. $2,000. A paid performance. He handed over his contract and his phone records. Brandon whispered furiously to his lawyer. Melissa Rodriguez was next. She sat in the witness chair with quiet dignity, her hands folded in her lap, and told the judge about Chloe, about the abandoned pregnancy, about 3 years of silence, 3 years of unpaid support. About the sudden $15,000 payment on October 24th, the same day my savings account had been drained. Brandon stared at the table. Then came the Zoom testimony. Michelle Torres, calling in from Denver, described how Brandon had convinced her to invest $95,000 in a non-existent restaurant. Her voice broke when she said she'd lost her retirement savings. Jennifer Adams from San Diego recounted a nearly identical scam. $67,000, a fabricated story about his mother's surgery. No mother, no surgery. By the time the last witness finished, Brandon looked like a cornered animal. Judge Finch reviewed her notes. Mr. Hayes, I find sufficient evidence to bind you over for trial on all 8 counts. Bail is set at $500,000. $500,000. Brandon's lawyer leaned over, whispered something. Brandon's face went ashen. Your Honor. The lawyer said, my client does not have the resources. Then he'll remain in custody until trial. Judge Finch's gavel came down. We're adjourned. Brandon was led away in handcuffs. He looked back once, his eyes locking on mine. I didn't flinch. Outside the courthouse, the desert sun beat down on the pavement, shimmering in waves of heat. I loosened my tie and took a breath. Detective Daniel Carter approached, his badge clipped to his belt. Mr. Hughes, a word. Frank and Maxwell stepped aside. Carter lowered his voice. We'll be issuing a warrant for your daughter within 48 hours. Conspiracy, fraud, forgery. She'll need to turn herself in. My chest tightened. She agreed to cooperate. I know, and that'll help her. But she still committed crimes. The law doesn't care if she was manipulated. Carter's expression softened. I'm sorry. I know this isn't easy. Will she go to jail? Depends on the judge. If she cooperates fully, testifies, shows remorse, probably probation. But she'll have a record. I nodded slowly. Thank you, Detective. He walked away. I stood there on the courthouse steps, the noise of the city buzzing around me, cars, voices, the distant wail of a siren. My phone buzzed. A text. Unknown number. I opened it. Dad, I need to talk. Amanda. I stared at the screen. 4 words. After 2 weeks of silence. After threats lies theft. Dad. I need to talk. Frank stepped beside me. What is it? I showed him the message. He exhaled slowly. What are you going to do? I looked up at the courthouse, then back at the phone. I don't know, I said quietly. But I knew I couldn't ignore her. Not yet. If you're invested in Warren's journey, comment waiting so I can feel your support. Before we continue, the upcoming part has creative elements woven in for impact. If that's not your style, you're welcome to close the video now. Totally understandable. The cafe in Old Town Scottsdale was quiet at 4 in the afternoon. I sat near the back, black coffee untouched, waiting. Amanda walked in 7 minutes late. I almost didn't recognize her. No makeup, hair in a messy ponytail, oversized gray sweater jeans. Her eyes were red and swollen, her face pale. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. She sat down across from me without a word. Hi, Dad. Her voice was barely audible. Hi, sweetheart. Silence stretched between us. She twisted her fingers together, staring at the table. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry, Dad. For everything. For the money. For the house. For what I said about Mom. About the nursing home. I didn't mean it. I was just... Her voice broke. She pressed her palms against her eyes, trying not to cry. I waited. Brandon told me you wouldn't even notice, she said, tears spilling over. He said you had so much money that taking a little wouldn't hurt you. He said you'd want to help me. And you believed him. I wanted to believe him, because I was desperate. She looked up at me, her face wet. I'm $28,000 in debt, Dad. Credit cards. I was about to be evicted. I didn't know what to do. $28,000. Why didn't you come to me? I asked quietly. Why didn't you just ask? She shook her head. Because I was ashamed. Because I didn't want you to think I was a failure. Her voice dropped. And because after Mom died, you disappeared. Not physically, but emotionally. You were there, but you weren't there. I tried to talk to you, but you didn't want me. You wanted her. The words hit like a punch. I felt like I lost both my parents that day, she whispered. And I've been trying to get you back ever since. I stared at her, my throat tight. She was right. After Catherine's accident, I'd fallen into grief so deep I couldn't see daylight. I'd stopped answering calls, stopped living. I'd abandoned my daughter when she needed me most. Amanda, I said, my voice rough. I'm sorry. I didn't know. I know you didn't. That's why I didn't say anything. She wiped her eyes. Brandon knew. He knew I was angry. He knew I felt abandoned. And he used it. He told me you owed me. That taking the money wasn't stealing it, was taking what was already mine. And now I know he lied about everything. The investments, the properties, his parents, his whole life. Her face twisted with shame. I helped him steal from my own father, and I can't take it back. I reached across the table and took her hand. She flinched, then gripped my fingers like a lifeline. I forgive you, I said. She shook her head violently. You shouldn't. I don't deserve, Amanda. Look at me. She did, tears streaming. I forgive you. You made a mistake. You were manipulated. But you're still my daughter. And I love you. She broke. She bent forward, sobbing into her hands. I stood, walked around the table, and pulled her into my arms. She buried her face in my shoulder and cried deep, wrenching sobs that sounded like they'd been buried for years. I held her and whispered the words I should have said 3 years ago. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I wasn't there. I'm sorry, Dad. I'm so sorry. We stayed like that for a long time. At 4:45, the door opened. Detective Daniel Carter stepped inside. Amanda pulled away from me, wiping her face. I called him, she said quietly. I need to do this. I need to face what I did. Carter approached. Miss Hughes, are you ready? She stood, her legs shaky. Yes. He didn't cuff her small mercy, but he placed a hand on her elbow and guided her toward the door. Amanda stopped and turned back. Do you really forgive me? I looked at my daughter, broken, ashamed, desperate for grace. I already have, I said. But you need to forgive yourself first. She smiled just a little and nodded. Then Detective Carter led her out into the Scottsdale sunlight. I stood at the window and watched them walk to the unmarked sedan, watched Amanda climb into the back seat, watched the car pull away, carrying my daughter toward a future I couldn't control. And I realized something. I'd gotten her back. Not the version of Amanda I'd lost 3 years ago. Not the little girl with pigtails and crayons. But the woman she was now. Flawed. Broken. Real. She was going to face charges. She was going to plead guilty. She might serve time, but she was mine again, and that was enough. The Maricopa County Superior Court was cold on the morning of January 15th. I sat in the front row, alone, my hands folded in my lap, watching as the bailiff called the room to order. All rise, the Honorable Margaret Finch presiding. The courtroom stood. Judge Finch entered, her gray hair pinned back, her expression unreadable. She took her seat and surveyed the room. The state of Arizona versus Brandon Michael Hayes and Amanda Marie Hughes. Please be seated. I sat. Brandon was led in first, wearing the same orange jumpsuit from the preliminary hearing, his hands cuffed in front of him. He looked thinner now, his face hollow, his eyes dark. He glanced at me once, a flicker of rage, then looked away. Amanda came next. She wore a simple navy dress, her hair pulled back, no makeup. She looked small, fragile. When her eyes found mine, I gave her a small nod. She nodded back, then sat beside her public defender. The trial lasted 3 days. On the first day, the prosecutor presented the timeline, the forged power of attorney, the unauthorized withdrawals, the fake boutique, the sale of the rental property. Every transaction, every lie, every manipulation laid out in cold, clinical detail. Michelle Torres testified via Zoom from Denver. She spoke calmly, but her voice shook when she described losing $95,000 to Brandon's fake restaurant scheme. Jennifer Adams followed. San Diego, $67,000. A fabricated story about a dying mother. She cried on the screen. On the second day, Denise Crawford and Alan Porter took the stand. They each described the fake parent scheme, the contracts, the script Brandon had given them. Denise apologized to me directly from the witness chair. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Hughes. I didn't know." Melissa Rodriguez testified in person. She held herself together until the prosecutor asked about Chloe. Then her voice broke. "He left when she was 6 months old. I haven't heard from him in 3 years, until he sent $15,000 in October. Money he stole from Mr. Hughes." Brandon stared at the table, jaw clenched. On the third day, I took the stand. The prosecutor asked me to describe the fraud. I did step by step. The missing money, the forged documents, the hospital visit where Amanda had tricked me into signing the power of attorney while I was weak and feverish. "Mr. Hughes," the prosecutor said, "your daughter participated in this fraud. She withdrew funds. She facilitated the sale of your property. How do you feel about that?" I looked at Amanda. She was staring at her hands, tears streaming down her face. "My daughter stole my money," I said quietly. "But Brandon Hayes stole her soul." The courtroom was silent. He manipulated her. He exploited her grief, her loneliness, her desperation. She made a terrible mistake. But he's the one who made her believe it was justified. The prosecutor nodded. "Thank you, Mr. Hughes." Then it was Amanda's turn. She walked to the stand, slowly, her hands trembling. The prosecutor asked her to recount the fraud. She did, her voice shaking, stopping every few sentences to wipe her eyes. "I lied to my father. I forged his signature on documents. I took his money. I helped Brandon sell his house." She looked at me, her face wet. "I'm so sorry, Dad. I'm so sorry." Brandon's lawyer stood. "Ms. Hughes, you're testifying against Mr. Hayes to save yourself, aren't you?" "No," Amanda said. "I'm testifying because what we did was wrong, and I need to take responsibility." "You expect this court to believe—" "Objection," the prosecutor said, badgering the witness. "Sustained." Brandon's lawyer sat down frustrated. Then Brandon himself took the stand. He denied everything. Said Amanda had acted alone. Said he'd tried to stop her. said I was the one lying trying to frame him because I disapproved of the relationship. The jury didn't buy it. When Amanda's lawyer cross-examined him, Brandon lost his composure. He pointed at Amanda, his voice rising. She's lying. She's the one who planned everything. She used me. Amanda flinched, but didn't look away. Mr. Hayes, the judge said sharply, control yourself or you'll be removed from the courtroom. Brandon sat back, seething. On January 19th, the jury returned. Guilty on all counts. Judge Finch sentenced Brandon first. Mr. Hayes, you have demonstrated a pattern of deceit, manipulation, and financial exploitation spanning multiple years and multiple victims. You preyed on vulnerable people, including the elderly and a single mother. This court sentences you to 5 years in the Arizona Department of Corrections. You are also ordered to pay restitution of $275,100 to Warren Hughes and $42,000 in child support to Melissa Rodriguez. Brandon's face went white. Then the judge turned to Amanda. Ms. Hughes, you participated willingly in this fraud. However, the court acknowledges that you were manipulated by Mr. Hayes and that you have shown genuine remorse. You have cooperated fully with the prosecution. This court sentences you to 18 months in the Arizona Department of Corrections, followed by 5 years of supervised probation. You are jointly responsible for restitution alongside Mr. Hayes. Amanda nodded, tears streaming. The bailiffs led them away. Brandon didn't look back. Amanda did. Her eyes found mine one last time before the door closed. 2 days later, I sat in the visitation room at the Perryville Women's Facility. Amanda walked in wearing a tan jumpsuit, her hair shorter now, her face pale but calm. She sat down across from me, a sheet of plexiglass between us. We picked up the phones. Hi, Dad. Hi, sweetheart. She smiled just a little. 18 months. I know. That's a long time. I shook my head. It's nothing. I'll wait for you. 18 months. I can wait. Her eyes filled with tears. You really mean that? I do. She pressed her hand against the glass. I pressed mine against hers. I love you, Dad. I love you too. We sat like that for a long time, 2 hands separated by plexiglass holding on. The letter arrived in March 2025, 2 months after the trial. Plain white envelope, Perryville return address, Amanda's handwriting. I opened it at the kitchen table. Dear Dad, I don't know how to start this. I've written it a dozen times. My therapist says I need to stop running from the hard things. I'm sorry. For stealing from you. For lying. For what I said about Mom. I've been going to therapy twice a week. I'm learning things I didn't want to see. How I blamed you for Mom's death because it was easier than accepting she was gone. How I let Brandon manipulate me. How I convinced myself stealing wasn't really stealing because I was angry. None of it was your fault, Dad. You were grieving. You were human. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just need you to know I'm trying to become the person you raised me to be. The person Mom would have wanted me to be. I love you, Dad. Amanda. I read it 3 times, then folded it carefully. That night I wrote back. Dear Amanda, I received your letter. Thank you for being honest. You don't need to keep apologizing. I've already forgiven you. What you need to do now is forgive yourself. I'm proud of you for going to therapy. That takes courage. I want you to know something. No matter what you did, no matter what happens, I choose to love you. That's not conditional. It's just true. 18 months will pass. I'll be here when they do. Love, Dad. I mailed it the next morning. The months that followed were quiet. Spring turned to summer, summer to fall. The house felt empty, but it was a different kind of empty. Not hollow grief, but waiting. In April, Frank convinced me to volunteer at the Phoenix Public Library again. I started teaching elder financial abuse workshops twice a month. I told my story carefully without names and watched seniors lean forward taking notes. "How did you know something was wrong?" someone asked. "I didn't. Not at first. I trusted the person who hurt me. That's what makes it so hard." After one session, a man in his 70s approached me, hands shaking. "My son's been taking money from my account. I didn't know who to tell." I gave him James Maxwell's card. "Call this lawyer. He'll help you." The man's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you." I thought of Amanda, how easily I could have stayed silent. But I hadn't. And maybe this man wouldn't either. In June, I used part of the restitution money trickling in from Brandon's prison wages and set up a small fund. $5,000. The Catherine Hughes Elder Protection Fund. Money to help other victims pay for legal fees, counseling basic needs. Frank helped me file the paperwork. Catherine would be proud. I hope so. Letters from Amanda came every 2 weeks. She told me about therapy sessions, her job in the prison library, the book club she'd joined. She told me about the women she'd met, all trying to survive their mistakes. "There's a woman here named Maria. She embezzled money to pay for her daughter's cancer treatment. She's been here 3 years. She says the hardest part isn't the time, it's the guilt. I understand that now." I wrote back every time. Short notes, updates about the house, Frank's terrible golf game, the workshops, the fund. "You're doing good work, Dad," she wrote in October. "I'm proud of you." I cried when I read that. In November, Frank invited me to Thanksgiving at his daughter's house. I almost said no. The thought of celebrating while Amanda sat in a cell felt unbearable. But I went. Frank's grandkids ran around shrieking. His daughter handed me a plate of turkey. I ate, smiled when I was supposed to. On the drive home, Frank asked, "You doing okay?" "I'm managing." "She'll be out in 7 months." "I know." December came. I put up a small Christmas tree for the first time since Catherine passed. I hung a few ornaments, plugged in the lights, and stared at it. On Christmas Eve, I wrote Amanda. "Dear Amanda, I miss you." I don't say that enough, but it's true. I put up a tree this year. Maybe because I wanted to remember when you were little. Maybe because I needed to believe good things can come back. 6 more months. We're almost there. Merry Christmas, sweetheart. Love, Dad. January arrived cold and clear. I marked days on the kitchen calendar. 18 months minus 13, 5 to go. In February, Amanda's letter was different. "Dear Dad, I've been thinking about what happens when I get out. I'm scared. Scared I won't find a job. Scared people will judge me. Scared I'll disappoint you again. But I'm also hopeful. I've changed, Dad. I understand now what I did, not just to you, but to myself. I let anger and fear make my decisions. I won't do that again. I don't know what my life will look like in 4 months, but I know I want you in it. If you'll still have me. Love, Amanda," I wrote back immediately. "Dear Amanda, of course I'll have you. You're my daughter. That hasn't changed. It never will. You're going to be okay, better than okay. You're going to build a life you're proud of. And I'll be here to help however I can. 4 more months. I'm counting down with you. Love, Dad." On the last night of February, I sat on the back porch wrapped in a jacket staring up at the desert sky. The stars were bright and endless. I thought about the last 18 months, the theft, the trial, the letters, the waiting. I thought about Catherine, about the promise I'd made to protect our daughter. I'd failed for a long time, but in the end I'd kept it. I reached into my jacket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. Amanda's drawing from 1999. My daddy the hero. The crayon lines faded the paper soft. I stared at it for a long time. We made it, Catherine. I whispered into the cold desert air. 4 more months. We're going to make it. And for the first time in years, I believed it. When I look back at everything that happened, I don't just see betrayal. I see my own silence, my own grief, my own blindness. This wasn't only a family story about money. It was a family story about distance pride and the dangerous things we don't say out loud. I thought being strong meant handling pain alone. I was wrong. If you take anything from this family story, let it be this. Don't ignore red flags just because they come wrapped in love. Don't sign what you haven't read. Don't assume your children are fine because they smile. And don't disappear emotionally the way I did after my wife died. That vacuum became the space someone else stepped into. People may call what I did dad revenge, but it wasn't revenge. Real dad revenge isn't about destroying your child. It's about stopping the person destroying them. And sometimes painful truth is the only form of protection. If there was any dad revenge in this journey, it was aimed at deception, not at my daughter. Justice matters, accountability matters, but so does grace. I believe God does not waste pain, He uses it to refine us. I lost money, I lost peace, but I found my daughter again. And that is worth more than any account balance. Now, from my heart to yours, thank you for staying with me until the end of this journey. Leave a comment and tell me, what would you do if you were in a father's place, betrayed by his own child, yet forced to choose between justice and mercy? I truly want to hear your perspective. If this story moved, you consider subscribing so you don't miss future episodes. Please note, while inspired by real-life social issues, certain elements have been dramatized for storytelling. If this type of content isn't for you, feel free to explore other videos that better match your interests.